So today we're covering chapter 8, lesson 2, the history lesson. We were talking about the early Southwest Asia. Who can tell me some information about the Mesopotamia culture? Reem, go ahead.
Okay. Throughout most of human history, people lived as hunter-gatherers in small groups. They hunted wild animals and searched for wild fruits, nuts, and vegetables. They were nomadic, frequently moving from place to another to place. About 10,000 years ago, through a dramatic change began to occur. People started practicing agriculture, raising animals and growing crops. One of the first places that agricultural revolution unfolded was in Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia was a fertile plain between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers and present-day Iraq. With a shift to agriculture came a shift to more settled lifestyle. Villages began to appear in Mesopotamia because food was plentiful. Some villagers were fed up from farming and could undertake tool making, basket weaving, or record keeping. Over time, some villages grew into large, powerful cities that had their own government and military forces.
Okay,
These
Reem. So
cities
we said about the ruling system or the government. Did they have one government altogether, or they were sharing the same government, or each state or each village has their own government? Who can explain? Judy?
They have their own government.
Yes, every village made their own governments,
Oh.
which represented.
Um, 1 minute.
Mhm, which represented their first
So I'm
civilization.
still answering.
Yes.
Oh, okay. They have their own government. That's what I know.
Okay, which represented their first civilization. All right. Who can tell me about what did they invent? How was their civilization like? How were their houses like, and so on. Fadia,
Um,
about the society, the Mesopotamian societies.
some villages grew into large and powerful cities that had their own governments and military. Oh,
Okay, this is one point. And
and villages began to appear in Mesopotamia because food was plentiful, and
we said this part. I'm
some.
asking about the societies, ya Fadia. Over thousands of years, Mesopotamian societies such as
Oh, okay, okay. Over thousands of years, Mesopotamian societies such as Sumerians and Babylonian invented sophisticated irrigation and farming methods. They built large pyramid-shaped temple towers and made advances in mathematics, astronomy, government, and law, using a writing system called cuneiform. They produced great works of literature, including poem known as the Epic of eh?
Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh. Mesopotamia's achievements helped shape later civilization in Greece, Rome, and Western Europe.
Thank you very much, Fatia. So we said that over thousands of years, Mesopotamian societies such as the Sumerians and the Babylonians have invented number one, sophisticated irrigation and farming methods. Number two, they built huge pyramid shapes or shaped temples, towers, and made advances in number three, mathematics, astronomy. Also, government law using a writing system called the cuneiform, and they produced number four great works of literature, including poems such as the Epic of Gilgamesh. Mesopotamia's achievements have helped also the civilization in some countries such as Greece, Rome, and Western Europe. This is about the Mesopotamian civilization. Let's move to the birthplace of the word religions. which also considered as a revision because we've talked about it before, right? Who can tell me about what kind of religions, how many religions they used to have? Okay, Hannah Hamdi,
Yes.
tell us about the birthplace of the word religions.
Okay, the three of the world's major religions, they are originated, such as polytheism, and m- um, and monotheism, which is the belief in just one God. And the religion came to be known, and there is
Polytheism is
what?
the practice or to worship many gods is known that,
Which it's known as polytheism,
but believing in just one god is.
monotheism.
So they used to have both polytheism and monotheism. This is number one. What are the kind of religions used to be having there? Complete, yeah, Hannah.
Jews, they believe that the father of the Israeli people was Abraham.
Yes.
Uh, According to the Hebrew Bible, God called Abraham to leave his home in Mesopotamia and found a new nation in a land called Canaan between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. The area is shared today by Israel, the Palestinian territories, and Lebanon.
Yes, so the first religion in there was Judaism and its followers as Jews. Actually, they believed, or Jews believed, that the father of the Israeli people was Abraham, according to their Hebrew Bible. And in their story, God called Abraham to leave his home in Mesopotamia and find a new nation land called Canaan between Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, and this area is now known as Palestinian territories and Lebanon, and they claim this land for themselves. Okay. Also, we have a Jewish
The
teacher.
Miss they call Palestine.
It's called
مش they call
Palestine.
Palestine Israel.
I didn't call it Israel. I called it
I
Palestine.
know, but it's written in the book Palestine,
I
which
know, but
means يعني.
I said that they claim it for themselves.
ماشي.
Okay. Let's move back to the second religion. Who can tell us about the second religion? Let's see. Adam Guayed. Adam Guayed. Adam Guayed. All right. Let's see. Hannah Turgham.
The Jews believed in Abraham.
خلاص we finished about the Judaism. Let's move to the second religion.
Uh,
A Jewish teacher.
uh,
What was the name of the Jewish teacher?
Jesus.
Jesus, huh? What did he do? Start, yeah.
The teaching of Jesus led the rise of the Christianity. This new religion spread rapidly throughout the Mediterranean world and into Europe.
Yes. So,
The Jesus,
okay, that's it. A Jewish teacher named Jesus. He began preaching in the area and teaching that Jesus led to the rise of Christianity. So this was the second religion. Who can tell us about the third one? The third religion? Okay, let me start asking. Lujaina? Luji.
Okay. About AD 30, a Jewish teacher. Oh, sorry. Oh, ماشي. Then in the AD 600, Islam, the religion of Muslims, arose in the Arabian Peninsula. Muhammad, regarded by Muslims as the last and the greatest of the prophets, and announced his message in the desert city of Mecca. Many of the teachings of Islam are similar to those of Judaism and Christianity. For example, all three religions are monotheistic and regard Abraham as the messenger of God who first taught this belief.
Yes, so we believe that all of them followers, whatever the followers were, Jews or Jewish or sorry, or they were Christians or Muslims, they all believe in one God. So they believe, sorry, in one religion. After that, this is all revision because we finished this part before Eid. Let's talk about the Islamic expansion. Who can read about the Islamic expansion? Kenzie Tahan?
The religion that Muhammad preaches was relatively simple and direct. It focused on the need of obey the will of Allah, the Arab word for God. It obligated followers to perform 5 duties, which become known as pillars of Islam, promising
Yes. Kenzie?
faith to the God and accepting Muhammad as the God prophet, praying 5 times daily, fasting during the month of Ramadan, eating the poor and unfortunated, and making pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca.
So here he's talking about the Islamic religion. The Islamic religion, as we know, Muhammad preached relatively simple and direct. It focused on the need that we need to obey Allah. This is number one. The followers are obligated to pray 5 times a day, to fast the month of Ramadan, and to do the pilgrimage in the holy city of Mecca. What happened in the first several years of Islam? Who can tell us what happened? Okay. Osama Gizi,
Yes.
please read and tell us what happened
And
in
in
several.
its first several years, Islam attracted few converts by the time of Muhammad's death. However, in AD 632, it had expanded across the Arabian Peninsula under Muhammad's successors known as caliphs.
Caliphs Khalifa, yeah.
Uh, Arab armies began spreading their religion through military conquests. It was also spread by scholars, by religious pilgrims, and by Arab traders. I
So at
continue
the
reading? Or?
let me just explain this part, ya Osama. At the beginning, after the religion was spread all over Mecca, they started to expand the Islamic religion using by Muhammad's successors and caliphs. The Arab armies began to spread the religion through military conquest, and it was spread also not only by the army, but also by scholars, by religion pilgrims, and by Arab traders. Osama, complete?
By about AD 800, Islam had spread across nearly all of Southwest Asia, including Persia, present-day Iran, and part of Turkey. It also extended into most of Spain and Portugal, and across northmost Africa. It later expanded to northern and eastern Africa, Central Asia, and South and Southwest Asia. Islamic society was enriched by knowledge, skills,
Wait a minute,
ideas, and
معلش. So after that, we need to know the countries which they have expanded to. We need to know that they have expanded to Persia, which is Iran and part of Turkey, and also most of Spain, Portugal, and later to Eastern Africa and Central Asia and Southwest Asia. So the empire of Islam was very wide. It was very, very wide. These are the countries that Islam have expanded to. Then Islamic society was enriched by knowledge, skills, ideas, and cultural influences from many different people and areas. What kind of influences? Usama will tell us now. Usama, complete.
the influences contributed to a flowering of Islamic culture that lasted for centuries. During this period, great works of architecture were built and centers of learning arose. Arab scholars made advances in math and science. This golden age was to have a lasting impact on every place it touched.
Okay, although we know that now European countries are more advanced than us, but I can prove you that at this time, the Islamic world was more advanced. When the Islamic enriched them with their knowledge and skills, during this period, there were great work of architectures, and they built centers of learning. Arab scholars made advances in math, science. It was named or it was called the Golden Age. Okay? Then what happened بقى a very important war happened from the European during the year of 1100 and the year 1200. Okay, who can complete? Thank you, Osama. Ali Sham.
During the 1100s and 1200s, crusaders from Western Europe set up Christian states along Southwest Asia's Mediterranean coast. The Muslims fought back and gained control of these territories by 1300. However, in other areas, Muslim military power weakened. In the middle of the 1200s, a Central Asian people known as the Mongols, led by the grandson of the famous leader Genghis Khan, conquered Persia and Mesopotamia. These areas became a part of a vast Mongol empire that stretched across much of Eurasia.
Okay.
Yes, should I
Important
complete?
word, thank you, Ali. Wait a minute. A very important word that have happened during this year, which is called the Crusades. What are the Crusades? Crusades means people who are coming from Western Europe have set up Christian state along the Southwest Asia and the Mediterranean coast. You know, what does it mean? People who were Christians came from Western Europe and they wanted to take Jerusalem back from Muslims. They wanted to gain control over Jerusalem because they said that this is their place for pilgrimage and they want to take it back. And it was under the control of Muslims. But in the middle of the year 1200, Central Asian people known as Mongols, led by the grandson of the famous leader Genghis Khan, conquered Persia and Mesopotamia. This is number two. Number one, the Crusades. Number two, the war of the Mongols by Genghis Khan. Okay, and these areas became part of vast Mongol empire that stretched across much of Australia. Okay, now what happened as a result of the Mongol attacks? Okay, Judy, complete. Judy Abaouf, what happened as a result of the Mongols attack?
As a result of the Mongols attacks, the Islamic world was fragmented and fell into decay.
Okay,
Soon, however, a new era of Islamic fragmented and fell. Soon, however, a new era of Islamic expansion began. As its heart for the Ottomans, a group of Muslim tribes.
let's complete. We began building.
A group of Muslim began building an empire on the Anatolian Peninsula in the early 1200s. By the mid 1300s, the Ottoman Empire had grown to include much of Western Asia and parts of southeastern Europe and northern Africa. At its height, it was one of the world's most powerful states. It endured for 6 centuries before finally collapsing in the early 1900s.
Thank you, Judy. So, as a result of the Mongol attacks, the Islamic world was fragmented and fell into decay. But there was a new era and a new expansion, which began at the heart. At its heart was the Ottoman Empire, and the Ottoman Empire is very well known, which are a group of Muslims tribes who began building an empire on the Anatolian Peninsula. But actually, has included much of Southwest Asia and parts of Southeastern Europe and Northern Africa. But it was one of the world's most powerful states, but it only endured for 6 centuries before finally collapsing in 1900. Okay. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll cover the rest of the lesson, the modern South Asia, and the Arab-Israeli conflict. So if you have, and the Civil War, and also the conflict and terrorism looking at the future. We'll cover the rest of the lesson. I need you to read it carefully to be ready tomorrow for our session. Anyone has a question about tomorrow's session? Sorry, today's session? Anyone has any question? So let me wrap up the session, then end it. First we talked
No,
about.
thank you.
Okay, don't forget that we're going to be having a homework, which is the timeline. So we need to start in the timeline. We'll start with Mesopotamia, okay? And we will talk what we are going to study in Mesopotamia. How did it rise? What kind of economic activity they were using? And how was their civilization? These are the three main points you're going to be covering at this part. How was it rise? It started as hunters and gatherers, then small groups. Then when they get their full supplies from farming, they started to have other kind of economic activities. Then they started to create their own villages with their own governments, and they started to create their own governments. And we talked about their civilization at this part. Number two, the birthplace of the word religion. They're going to talk about the difference between polytheism and monotheism. And we said the difference that polytheism is believing in many gods, but monotheism is believing in only one God. Then we talked about the rise of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Then we talked about the Islamic expansion. How did it start? We talked about at the beginning how was Islam expanding, which countries did it expand to, and then we talked about the Islamic society and how did it affect other countries around the world, which was very advancing actually. The Islamic culture was very advanced. Then we talked about two wars that have tried to weaken Islam, like the Crusades and the Mongols led by Genghis Khan. Then we said that at the end it was fragmented and it was decayed a little bit. Then it started the Ottoman Empire to rise, but at the end, unfortunately, it was fragmented again and it was lost in decay in the year 1900. Okay, that's our summary for the lesson today. Anyone has any question, guys?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. يلا, see you tomorrow إن شاء الله. Bye.
Bye.